All right, Mr. Bass, welcome back to the show after the boardroom show. Let's talk about our friends at NVS Fins.
Oh man, Leif and Jamin, they are setting me up with some fins for my new boards, so I'm pretty excited.
Wait a second. New boards?
Yeah,
Shocking.
yeah. Uh,
Well, you know what they were setting everybody up with at the boardroom show
yeah.
is that special elixir, healing elixir that Jamin makes. Um, it's like
How was it?
lemon, so good.
Nice.
It's survival. I mean, the reality is everybody's over exhausted basically. It's a lot of work being there and socializing, and everybody's close in your face. So you want to have some sort of layer of immune protection. And Jamin, I asked him for the recipe. Actually, a listener asked me for the recipe. So I asked Jamin. He said he's going to send it, but I haven't received it yet. So I don't know if he was trying to smoke screen me. But from what I can tell, it is all locally grown or grown in his backyard. Lemon, manuka honey, ginger, and some other stuff. I'm not sure what the other stuff is, but it's amazing.
I am so disappointed in myself for not taking him up on it. And I wanted to. I just, it just kind of, a little bit chaotic at the event, so I missed it.
Well, this is what we love about the boardroom show. The family of the boardroom show is that it's not all just business. It's Jamin looking out for you and I, and random listeners too, like random attendees of the boardroom show too. So
Yeah, well, thanks to NVS for sponsoring the podcast. We're super stoked to have you on board. And yeah, man, good stuff.
stoked to ride the fins too. I got special limited edition twin fins for the boardroom show that they made.
I did too. That was really cool. And I sort of have my heart set on some of those S-wing fins from Jabi, Jabi from France. I don't know if
Yeah,
you saw those S-wings, but
I have.
I think that NVS is going to do something with him. So regardless, a little bit, I'm anticipating riding some
Yeah,
of those S fins.
yeah, exciting.
Yeah.
Well, also realwatersports.com. I was just checking out their website and Trip Foreman did a trip to the wave pool in Virginia Beach.
Oh,
And they do these incredible videos. I mean, they kind of started doing surfboard review videos, but they do a bunch of other stuff now. And in this particular video, they do the Virginia Beach thing with his co-owner Jack Sachs or Jake Sachs, sorry.
hmm.
And the boards that they surf there, their kind of purpose was let's figure out which boards work the best in, freshwater wave pool style of waves. So they took five different boards. They took the Valeric Star Cruiser, the Maurice Cole Twinser, the Firewire Machado Groove, the Christensen Hole Shot, and the Werner Drifter, and put those things through the paces, discuss it, show you the footage, all that sort of stuff. So you can buy boards there, but you can also just be entertained through their YouTube channel and informed.
Yeah, one of the things they really do well with their YouTube is Trip has got a really wonderful quality, which is ability to just kind of veer to the left with content or veer like it's not like he had board reviews and he's like, well, let's just do this now. Like he's really good at just adapting and just doing stuff that he thinks is interesting because he's a hardcore surfer. So he kind of gets it every time he shifts. It's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Let's learn about this now.
Totally. And it all often is kind of where your heart and center is, which is the surfboard itself. So it
Yeah.
is like, yeah, we're going to the wave pool, but of course we want to know what boards to ride at the wave pool. Or we're going to Chicama. Here's a video about Chicama. Here's about boards in Chicama. So they're doing a killer job. Check them out at realwatersports.com.
As we see some movement at the takeoff zone, it's Kelly Slater grabbing rail.
Yeah, a guy, David. Welcome to Spit. It is the Spit Podcast. David Lee Scales and Scott Bass. We're talking all things surf with you and perhaps a few other things. Good morning to you, David.
Good morning, Scott Bass. We apologize to listeners for our hiatus last week, but look, we needed it. We worked hard all weekend at the boardroom show and came into the week behind schedule. So took a little breather, but we're here back to deliver all the news from the boardroom show.
Yeah, a little maybe boardroom show wrap up. But first, David, I have a Who Said That. This is
Oh,
the part
great.
of the show where I try to stump you. I'm not sure anything in this quote is going to give you a hint or not, but I'm going to give you a quote from a famous surfer, and you're going to try to guess who it is out of a list of 4 that I'm going to give you. So here's the quote, David.
Okay.
People who win contests, he said to Carol. Sometimes I look at them and I think, gee, they've got qualities which I'd really appreciate in myself. Then other times, the majority of times, I think they've got absolutely nothing that I'd really aspire to. Winning could never be my sole goal. And that's what it's got to be, your sole goal. The guys who are way up there get really weird sometimes.
Fascinating.
Who said that, David? Was it A, Barton Lynch, B, Tom Carroll, C, Richard Cram, or D, Richard Dog Marsh?
Gotta go Cram.
You're correct. Richard Cram is the correct answer. And I think you did a pretty good job of noting that 2 of those guys were the guys at the top that might have gotten weird at some time. I don't know. How did you get to Richard Cram?
Well, because Barton Lynch is competitive. Obviously, Dog Marsh is still super competitive in his post surf career. And the beginning of the quote, you said, he said to Carol, which
Yeah.
I presumed was Tom Carroll. And then later you gave Tom Carroll as one of the options. So unless he's talking in the mirror.
Oh, no, you see, my hint to you was he said to Carol, but you got the Carol wrong. It was Nick Carroll, who's obviously a surf journalist, but it's still kind of like the idea was, okay, it's going to be, anyway, that was the hint, but I guess you got it.
Well, Cram made the most sense anyways.
Yeah, he's a pretty smart guy and a guy with an incredible cutback, right? That was his kind of claim to fame. It's so funny back in the day when all you saw was surf magazines. If there was one photo of him doing an insane cutback and the caption under the photo was known for one of the meanest cutbacks in the game or whatever the caption might be, from that day forward, he was forever painted as the guy with the meanest cutback. And frankly, in Quicksilver, the performers video, I think it was, he does a number of insane cutbacks. It's not that he's not great at cutbacks, but I guess it just speaks to the day and age where we're in regarding content. But back then it just took one little thing and you were pushed up to the top.
Well, let's do a quick ranking because we always like to stack rank stuff. Name surfers with the best cutbacks, or maybe who are known for the best cutbacks.
Well, we got to start with Richard Cram, although some of our younger listeners probably don't even know who he is. How about Wayne Lynch?
I'm going to throw in Poncho Sullivan.
That's a great one. He's almost got like a power hack.
Well, then that's a different
like is a cutback a big roundy, or is it like the buried rail power hack drop wallet?
Well, I guess it was dictated by the boards of the era.
For sure.
So the era, the Cram era, I don't think you could do the big power hack. Really, the boards limited it, so it turned in or it became
a big
roundhouse. Yeah, tight, not as tight of a turning radius, but power throughout. And then that '90s era, where the boards did get lower volume, is where you started seeing the Sonny Garcia power hack, the Poncho Sullivan power hack. The Sullivan one was more of a layback even. He would throw a layback into it. Not a proper layback that you have to recover from, but just a lean back with the power forward. But that was a guy that I thought of where you said Cram became known for the cutback. I was like, man, Poncho became known just for that one move. Even though he was well-rounded, that was his move.
Yeah, no, that's a good call. But if we just stick with that Cram era, frankly, I kind of go towards Marvin Foster a little bit from that same performers video. A big roundhouse cutback. I don't know. Glenn Winton, maybe. Nothing like they've kind of have to, if you search for it, it's probably not legit although we have been known to miss some obvious ones in the past.
Of course. Yeah. You know, what's funny is I can only think of Cram. If you're thinking about a roundhouse and that being what they're known for, he's the only one that I think of being kind of synonymous with that. I think of individual waves of people that became iconic where they did an incredible one.
Like who?
But, well, I mean, most recently, Kelly Slater at Kira comes to mind, probably the best one of all time.
Ooh, that's quite a claim there. And I'm not doubting it, but I am saying that that we could be shuffling the deck, because what about the cutback? Like when you say the cutback, what comes to mind? The cutback.
Obviously, Tom Curran
Right.
at Off the Wall.
Right.
Yeah.
On a 7/8 Maurice Cole reverse V. I think that's the cutback. And that was shot by a few people, but Tom Survey, the photographer, best is the photograph that most people know.
Yeah, but it I would love to see the video of it, and I have a feeling that it's not as gnarly of a cutback as the Kelly Slater one or others that exist. It's just a perfect pose in that moment.
Yeah, I mean the single, quarter eighth of a second or whatever that less than that, probably 32nd of a second that they grabbed that photo. You're right, that moment. Yeah, could just be that one. It's just a beautiful photograph, right?
Well, it became the silhouette for Surfer Magazine's little icon on the side. You know the
They call it the bug
Oh, is that what they call it?
in the publishing world. Yeah, that's called the bug.
Okay. Yeah, the little bug icon that would be at the side seam of the magazine
Hmm.
has a little surfer, and that is the silhouette of that exact turn from Curran. But you know who they were going to replace it with in
Who?
the mid 2000s?
Andy.
Dan Malloy.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, Chris Burkhardt told me this, but he had a cover shot of Dan Malloy, I want to say in Japan,
Hmm.
um, doing a big front side turn. It was kind of like from a water level. I don't know if he was in a boat or actually in the water, but he's kind of sea level looking at the wave, and there's rocks in the background. And Dan's doing a big front side carve. And the magazine, I don't know if they did officially change it, but they were talking about changing it. And that was going to be a huge moment. So,
No, that's very interesting.
yeah.
I didn't know that. That's not one that I would have picked. I would have thought somebody
Yeah.
a little
I
bit
wouldn't,
more,
I mean, magazines had kind of fallen down or fallen out of their height of circulation at that point. So I don't think it had the cultural impact that that Tom Curran one did. But if you look at that cover shot and you look at the silhouette itself, it's kind of flawless. Like
yeah.
the turn is amazing, and that silhouette is, iconic or could become iconic. But whatever,
Well,
can't you don't even need to get rid of the Tom one, to be honest. The Tom one stands the test of time.
for sure. And even more important is the fact that for 2026, our icon of foam is Maurice Cole. So we've got Maurice Cole as the 2026 icon of foam at the Boardroom Show. This is the official announcement. And that's why I bring up the cutback.
Wow. Okay, good. Thank you for bringing that up.
See, full circle, Richard Cram.
Um, how long ago did you decide that? Did Maurice know before he came to America, or did you just deliver that to him while he was here?
Well, I don't deliver anything. I ask them with all humility, and that occurred yesterday.
Huge breaking news then. Less than
Mhm.
24 hours old. Congrats, Maurice. That is amazing, dude.
Well, congrats to all of us as surfboard lovers, because he brings a lot of energy and stoke and psych. So we're super excited.
Cannot say enough good things or share enough excitement about that announcement. That is amazing.
But we should talk about our 2025 icon of foam, Eric Arakawa. If we could do a quick boardroom wrap up.
What doesn't need to be quick.
Okay, well, first of all, working with Eric, just a wonderful man to engage with, and we had to do a lot of engagement. He and I work together seamlessly, and he's got a humility and a kindness and an expertise that's unmatched. And I know that he also worked closely with Tim Crozier, who sets up my shaping bays and manages the competition. And you know, obviously Tim only has high praise for Eric Arakawa. And what were your thoughts about Eric over the weekend?
Well, also can't say enough good things about Eric. Eric's phenomenal. Humility is I think you can't overstate the humility aspect because he's been in the game for 50 years, so he could have some amount of ego, and he really, really doesn't. I mean, he has less ego than people I know who don't deserve to have any ego at all. It's kind of remarkable. It's incredibly refreshing. But the other detail is he is still super meticulous and committed to excellence. And we've seen a lot of different judging styles over the years. And I don't I'm not bad mouthing any of them because they all have their place and they fit the surfer or the shaper's personality, you know. But his, I felt like, was detailed without being overkill, but it was objective. So I felt like the actual winners they were the ones who deserved to win. And I didn't necessarily know why. You know, I wasn't looking at the boards that closely and determining what I thought should win, but I looked at his judging sheet after the fact. And it was done on a, 50 point, it was numeric, it was 50-point scale. Outline has this many points, rocker has this many points, and they went through and they measured everything and then assigned the point value to each thing. And when I looked at it, I'm like, and the two shapers would be standing right there. Richie Collins wants to know how he did against whoever it was at the time. And I'm like, okay, well, you won by half a point in the rocker, and then you lost by 1 point in the foil, and then you won by half a point here. So it even ends up being a half a point difference in the end, but you won some categories, you lost some categories. And I think that helps this individual shapers themselves fully wrap their head around the process. And again, in the end, I felt like it was just super objective. So kudos to Eric and his team for taking the time to actually do that. And then the boards themselves, when you look at the boards that were being replicated, they're super iconic, influential boards, influential for all of surfing. Those boards, where they were ridden, who rode them, that sort of thing. So I think he was a fantastic person to honor.
Yeah, I think you're right. That's a great way to put it. The boards you mentioned, the first board in the competition was a Arakawa Island Classics from the 91-92 season, and it had 3 glass-on fins, which I think added to some of the measuring. I don't want to say difficulty, but it challenged the shapers to get proper measurements. A little bit, perhaps. I'm not a shaper, so I'm not super expert in all this, but. And then the second board was Ronnie Burns' board and another Island Classics by Arakawa, Waimea Gun. That was 9 feet 6 inches long, which of interest, it was ridden by Derek Ho, Michael Ho, and Ronnie Burns, all in the same contest, which is pretty cool, which is something you don't see much of these days. And then the third board was, of course, the 6'6" Arakawa, which Andy Irons rode to victory in the Pipe Masters final heat in 2003 to beat Kelly Slater and Andy securing his first of 3 world titles.
Which has an incredible story behind the board itself and how it came to be. So
please tell us.
I don't know it. You know it better than I do. I mean, I've heard Eric tell it, but you were telling it over the course of the weekend.
Well, so before the season starts in 2002, 2003, 2004, whatever, 2003. Andy calls Eric and goes, look, here are the boards that I need. I need, a 7.8, a 7.6, a 6, a 7.0 and a 6 and a bunch of 6.2s or whatever. And Eric goes, well, what about a 6.6? Like, let's make you some 6.6s. And he goes, okay, yeah, let's do it. Let's do a 6.6. Let's do 2 6.6s. And Eric goes, well, I think we should do 3 6.6s, not 2, Andy. Let's do 3. And Andy goes, okay, whatever. Yeah, let's do 3. And so Andy wins the Sunset event, the World Cup at Sunset, and that gives him enough points to actually be in reach of besting Slater for the world title. He's got to basically do better than Kelly at Pipeline. Of course, the points sort of change as the event goes on, but as Pipeline goes on, Andy breaks one of the 6.6, the first 6.6. Then he's in the semis. At this point, he has to win the finals to become the world champion and to best Kelly Slater. And Andy breaks the second 6.6 in the semifinals. And thank goodness that Eric suggested making 3 of these boards. So Eric pulled out a brand new, fresh 6.6 for the final heat. And of course, that's the board that he won the world title on and won the Pipeline Masters on in 2003. And that's the board that they replicated in the Icons of Foam Shape-Off class 2 weekends ago.
Incredible. I'm glad you told that story. I would have missed some of those details.
What's funny, as I told the story, I was thinking to myself, if Kelly hears this story, I bet he's going to chime in and say we got something wrong, which we may have, by the way. He probably knows better than but I'm just going by what Eric told us. So.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
phenomenal board selections, and I think present each board obviously presents different challenges. And so you didn't state it yet, but Dan Mann ended up winning the Icons of Foam challenge, and deservedly so. That was no small feat.
Yeah, look, I mean, Dan Mann, great human, great shaper, great surfer, world-class champion long distance paddler. Some people don't know that about Dan. I believe, and again, I could be wrong. I believe he won the Catalina Classic one year, quite a long time ago, probably 20
Wow.
years ago. But Dan and I, we've only known each other sort of peripherally through, events and trade shows and so forth and so on. But stellar human being. And I want to make note that he sent my family a wonderfully worded, handwritten thank you note and a gift of gratitude along with it. And man, if you want to score points with Mrs. Bass and the whole Bass family, when you send a handwritten note, that's the sign of a good human being, a great human being. So
Read it on air.
no, no, I don't. That's personal, but
You
it
know,
was really nice of him.
I I've grown to love him. There is no reason not to in the first place. I just don't. I've never spent much time with him. But one thing I will say from the public's perspective, if I can speak for the public, maybe I'm not qualified to do that either. I think people who don't live out in San Diego maybe didn't know of his acumen as a craftsman, let's say. But his association with Kelly Slater and Firewire surfboards set him into the public awareness, and that awareness might have been as a designer. Like, oh, he's a designer and he made a couple models and now they're mass produced. And so the public may have discounted his ability as a craftsman. And I think that this display over the boardroom show is a firm reminder that he's a surfboard shaper. You know what I mean? Unquestionably. And now he's
Yeah,
got the title to prove it.
and a builder, a guy who can do it all. So super stoked for Dan, and we're hoping that Dan will step up and defend his title next year. We'll see.
Yeah.
I did want to throw out a couple of other, well, all seven of the other shapers just
Oh,
real
yeah.
quick and get your insight on them. So Adam Warden from San Diego, really gracious, and he understood the big picture, which is to honor Eric Arakawa and the craft of building surfboards. And I thought he did a wonderful job. He did have a bit of a hiccup.
I witnessed the hiccup in real, like
Oh,
literally,
tell
like,
us, tell us.
so I just happened to glance over at this exact moment before I think he had cut the outline of the board, but it was very early on in the shaping process, like in the first 15 minutes, let's say. He picked up the board off the racks and went to turn it 180 degrees, and the nose of the board hit the top of the shaping bay and broke off a 2-inch chunk of foam out of the nose of the board. And then I see his eyes go wide, and it's like, oh crap. And he turns to Tracy, and he's like, hey, do you have any like quick set epoxy? Like, can I glue this back on basically, and then I can just shape it and hopefully everything's fine? And then Tracy's scrambling. He pulls over Crozier, and Crozier's like, no, dude, it kind of is what it is at this point. Like, we're not going to scramble and try to figure that out. You just go with it. And so I think you and I might have even talked in that 90 minutes before the judging. And I was like, I don't know, like if he gets every other detail of this board precise, but the nose is missing a 2-inch chunk because of an error. Like I think but the other board maybe isn't as well shaped. Maybe he can still win this thing. And you're like, I don't know, missing 2 inches of the nose is kind of a big portion of miss. Ultimately, we left it up to the judges. And I think the judges deemed for other reasons that the other shaper, who might have been Alan White, ended up
Mm.
winning anyway. So it kind of ended up becoming a moot point despite that hiccup. But that hiccup could have thrown Adam off anyways, you know?
Yeah, I agree that you're right. It could have thrown him off. And secondly, I'm not sure that it had any effect on the outcome. I don't sense that the judges were freaking out on that,
I don't
or
either.
making that an issue. I don't recall that being part of it. But,
Yeah.
and then you mentioned Alan White, the East Coast Shape Off champion. We invite the East Coast champion to participate. They get an automatic slot in the Shape Off here. And wow, Alan White went on to the finals, took second place overall. I think if there was, I mean, there was a few dark horses, at least in my head, and only because I don't know some of these guys. Not that they're not, that they shouldn't be considered, even money to win. But Alan White was sort of a dark horse, just as I mentioned, didn't know him. But what a great human being, another great human being, and super fun to hang out with. And wow, what a surfboard shaper this guy is. Prepared.
Immense talent. The only reason we don't know Alan White is because he's based out of Cocoa Beach, Florida, and doesn't spend a dime on marketing his brand. And so if you're in that area, you absolutely know who Alan White is, and probably gotten boards from him as well. Your dad probably got boards from him. He's been in business for 50 years. He has a shaping bay in his surf shop. Yeah, I know you've been there too. I was there once and he was shaping the whole time I was there, chatting in between. But he's a classic. The surf world is full of Alan Whites, and the talent is immense.
Yeah. And so there's something sort of heartwarming about him making it all the way to the finals, and frankly, the final was very close. Like, I don't know, you've got a hardcore 50-year-old or 50 years of career production shaping and just shaping, doing his thing and kind of just keeping his head down and grinding. So there's some blue collar sort of quality to that and to him that is endearing for sure.
Absolutely. I was glad to see him make the final.
And then Todd Proctor, excuse me, from Ventura, a shaper who cut his teeth doing production work before Matt Biolos and Lost Surfboards. I'm sure there's some good stories there. I don't really know Todd, but I'd like to get to know him better. He builds fast and progressive high performance surfboards for challenging waves. David strikes me as a guy who would really benefit if somehow he could get a CT level surfer on his equipment or like a challenger level, a young surfer on the rise on his boards. I think it would be good for all involved. He builds boards that would work in sort of the competitive format.
Well, I don't personally know Todd, but people rave about the boards, and he's had moments of what you're talking about, and I've seen his stock go up when that happens. There was 10 years ago Nick Rosa out of Ventura, who is kind of, I mean, not to draw a comparison to Dane, but he was kind of a Dane style of surfer, and just doing incredible free surfing with that full like pedal to the metal style of going for it, big airs, big turns, that sort of thing. So when Nick was doing his thing, I feel like everybody was aware of Proctor, but also Alan Sarlo rides Proctors to this day. Like not
Oh,
exclusively, but Sarlo's getting big shortboards
right.
and riding those, surfing those incredibly well at Malibu. So there's still, hardcore surfers who really know surfboards and design and performance who are still rocking those boards. So, Todd's definitely. Um,
And Pete Mendina, of course, from way back, was a rider that,
Forgot about Pete.
yeah.
Yeah, the
And
Sasquatch
I
or the
want to
Yeti. The Yeti.
say and I can't I think maybe Pete has a kid maybe that's riding his boards too. I'm not
He
positive on
does.
that. Yeah, but and Todd's a guy, and I believe he's been in Stab in the Dark. And to me, Todd's a guy that the guys at Stab should put on their radar for another Stab in the Dark. I could see him, sub, you know, blowing minds and getting the proper acknowledgement that his boards deserve.
I don't think he's been in Stab in the Dark.
I think he if he hasn't, and you're right, I don't know, but he's somebody that should be on Mikey and Sam's radar and the other guys up there at Stab.
Yep, good call.
Um, then we go to Richie Collins, another guy I didn't really know, but I found him to be a super nice guy and a real pleasure to work alongside and professional and dedicated to what he's doing. Another blue collar guy, and he made it to the semifinals. Richie Collins.
Yeah, I loved Richie. Obviously Richie's got a reputation from the past, and I've seen nothing but humility and kindness from him in my interactions with him, and was looking forward to actually spending extended time with him over the course of the weekend and thoroughly enjoyed his interactions. I thought he was super gracious with all the other shapers, like humble, asking for insights, sharing insights, complimenting them, just total joy to be around
Yeah.
and
Uh,
engaged. Like when he did lose, he wanted to know why. Like he was checking the scorecards, checking the other board to figure out, what the difference was. Like he's very engaged in making high quality surfboards.
yeah. Chris Christensen, of course, a good friend of mine. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and as many know, when I was first dreaming up a way to honor shapers and the art of handcrafting a surfboard, Chris's insights into what I should do, and probably just as important, what I should not do, were super helpful. And his shaper's viewpoint, so to speak, helped me mold what is the Icons of Foam tribute to the master shape off that we see today. And frankly, he makes some of the best surfboards that I've ever ridden, and I count on Chris's boards when I go to Indonesia.
Yeah, not enough good things can be said about Chris. I think his shaping prowess is undeniable. Like everybody's kind of aware of that, but he's also such a savvy, he's navigated the business of making surfboards in an incredibly savvy way that I think it provides a blueprint for anybody else who wants to do it. And he's willing to communicate those things too. So he's been able to kind of scale his business in ways that others have struggled to figure out and then still maintain super high quality with that quality, assurances along the way. I don't know if you watch ever. Michael Ciamarella on Stab does these surfboard reviews, and I think they're the best surfboard review videos that are happening on the internet in the last couple of years. In his most recent video, he's testing two Christensen boards, one thruster shortboard, and then one twin fin. And he's in Indonesia. And it's a fantastic review. He ends up liking both the boards a lot. And Mikey doesn't ever ride, or he doesn't like twin fins. He goes into this experiment not appreciating twin fins. And he leaves this experiment loving the Christensen twin fin. But at the end, he reveals Chris didn't touch either of these surfboards. Both of these surfboards came out of a factory in Bali that Chris works with. And so they're made to the specs, of course, of Chris's quality. But Mikey was marveling at how incredible, like these boards fit everything that everybody's told me about the Christiansens that they get back at home from Chris, or they've been getting boards from Chris for 10 years or whatever. These boards reflect that perfectly. And yet he didn't touch either of the boards. So I think that says a lot.
Yeah, I mean, when you mentioned his business savvy and his marketing, he always seems to be one step ahead of everybody. And it just seems to be just natural for him too. And look, we're talking about a guy who made an Eddie winning board for Greg Long. He's probably got, and Chris will let me know what I'm getting wrong here, but he's probably got some other big wave winning surfboards under somebody's feet. Oh,
Ian Walsh.
Ian Walsh. Yeah. And so anyway, he's really
Tom Lowe too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, up next, Barry Vandermeulen from Huntington Beach, David, by way of South Africa. Easygoing, kind, another real humble guy, great shaper. People in that Orange County area know Barry's surfboards. He's got a very iconic logo. I've seen his logo all over the place. I just didn't make the connection that was a Barry V surfboard logo. And Barry made it to the semifinals as well.
Barry, the reason you didn't know that is because he doesn't put his name on his boards.
There you go. It's not my fault.
And
Right.
he recognizes this as a very limiting business model. I'm like, dude, because I was the same way. I'm like, I've seen these boards around forever. Why don't you have your name on it? And you don't even have a website. Like, even if I figured out your name, I can't find you on the internet. But he's been able to exist without it, So, but he actually worked at Spider under Dennis Jarvis for a long time and developed like a lot of experience there just because of the volume they were doing. And then ended up working under Matt Biolis at Lost for a long period of time. And while he was at Lost, he was shaping his own boards and asked Matt if he minded. He's like, hey, man, I'm making my own boards on the side. Is this a conflict for you? And Matt goes, absolutely not. Like, if you can cultivate your own brand and do it on your own, do it. And so Matt actually encouraged him. And over the course of years, Barry ended up making enough boards on his own to where he quit his job with Lost, and he's been doing Barry V surfboards probably for 15 or 20 years now and succeeding at it on his own terms. So,
yeah, very cool. Good guy. And then Rodolfo Klima. Sadly, I didn't get to spend too much time with Rodolfo. He did have his Peruvian crew there cheering him on. And obviously, I'm super excited when there's international shapers in the event. And Eric suggested to me, Arakawa had suggested to me that, before the event, that he thought that Rodolfo could win this shape off. And your thoughts on Rodolfo?
So Rodolfo, absolutely. Like when I spoke to Rodolfo, he said he hasn't really been hand shaping in recent years. So he had to like get the planer out to like familiarize himself with it. But he's been also doing it for 50 years and he was hand shaping. He was making his own blanks. He was like, he's been around since the earliest days of it. So very, very well qualified. And then if you notice, he was hanging out at the show with Paizel, with Patterson, with Mauricio Zuvi from Sharp Eye, certainly with Eric. So he's actually been had the license for a number of those brands and been working with those guys for a long time. So he is right in the thick of it with the highest performance shortboard shapers on the planet and knows those designs really, really well. So yeah, equally qualified.
And should give a shout out to Eric Arakawa's crew too. His son Sean Arakawa was there, and he was of great help to us. And of course, Nat Woolley, who is the shaper at Arakawa along with Eric, and helped with the judging process. And you might not know this, but Nat is Mike Casey's son-in-law. I don't know if you know Mike Casey, but Mike Casey's a legendary shaper. He's from the San Diego area originally, I believe. I know he worked at Chan, and the big thing was to get if you got a Mike Casey Chan and you were going to get a good one. That was back in like say the mid '70s, and Mike moved over to Sunset Beach and has been shaping in Hawaii for decades. And so yeah, Nat is married to Mike's daughter.
Amazing. Yeah, great, great crew. And again, share Eric's humility too. They're all just like salt of the earth, cool people.
Yeah.
Um, the I got some feedback for you that I would like to share.
Please.
I had a number of people reach out throughout the course of the weekend and they were like, is the shaping streaming on the internet? Can I watch the shaping? And the conversations, what I realized the common denominator was people are more interested in these little technical aspects now than ever before. And I would not have thought that they would be, you know, but they're like, why did one shaper win over the other? You know, we would like to, like, just as fans, I want to see what one person's technique is over the other one, and then I want to know how that translated to an actual win. So I I've learned this from listener feedback too over time, where if a shaper that I'm interviewing starts getting into the really technical weeds, my instinct as the interviewer is to pull them out and to try to make it more entertaining. But the only feedback that I've ever gotten was let them go further into the weeds. And so I think there's something going on where, I don't know, while the internet might be becoming more vapid and more kind of, I don't know, fast paced, there's a reaction to that where people actually want to go deeper, longer, more meaningful. And you've got something set up that is perfectly situated. It's already delivering that. It's just the people on the internet or who aren't attending the show in person would love access to it.
Well, that's great feedback. Really good feedback, and something I'll have to wrap my head around. Part of me thinks maybe if I always think, oh God, live streaming an hour and a half of shaping a surfboard just doesn't seem that engaging. You know, the planer is going to be on, it's going to be loud, and you're not going to really know those intricacies that you're seeking by watching a guy move back and forth. What might be a good solution is to have a shaper actually live stream with the icon of foam with the board that they're replicating, not in the shaping bay and go, hey, this is what I'm going to be looking for. See this right here. This is an important part of this board. This part too, like have the shaper and the live stream. I don't know how long it's going to last. It's just, you know, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I don't know, but that might be one way to kind of get at those intricacies from the guy himself, the icon of foam. And while we're looking at the board that these two shapers are replicating, maybe that's a solution.
That sounds maybe like it. I think there is a way to whatever's happening between the judges and the shaper and determining the winner. can be, uh, extrapolated out and explained and shared. And that's kind of what the people want.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm always trying to keep it real anonymous and not let the public know until they've determined who the winner is. But because they're anonymous blanks anyway, why couldn't we just have them discuss it and have me talk about, or have whoever talk about
Yeah.
it while they're doing the judging? Like, oh, they like this, they marked down this for that. I think they're looking for this, and not be so hush hush about it, perhaps.
I see the value in the being hush hush, but now with the benefit of 10 years of hindsight, I guess, that is a slow spot in the show. The judging, everybody's waiting around, and sometimes it's only 7 minutes or something. But if it goes 20 minutes, it's a slow spot. And so being able to communicate what they're discussing, I think, does have value. There's no sense in keeping it anonymous, really. I mean, anonymous still, but no sense in keeping the judging guarded.
Yeah, yeah. Well, like I said, great feedback, and certainly the more feedback, the better, because we want to make the show better and better each time. So cool. That's good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. And also, congrats on the press coverage after the fact. I saw stuff written on Surfer. I saw a Stab article about it, probably elsewhere too. So that was good to see.
Yeah, that's good. You know, the shapers are the people we're trying to focus on here, and hopefully the press coverage did a good job of that. I'm sure it did. Best in Show, presented by Weekend Vans, was won by Steve Farwell. Second place, Rob Lance from Hawaii. I think I got his last name right. I'm pretty sure I
Rob
did.
Rob Lan, I think, just Lan.
Lan? Well, Lan, yeah. Yeah.
I met
Um,
Rob.
yeah, he's a super nice guy. And third place went to Bill Stewart. And honorable mention went to Fletcher Chenard, Ethan Zapp or Zappy, Tommy Kroll, Sean Madison of Von Soul Surfboards, and Kieran Murphy. So those were the honorable mentions. And congrats and thank you to all the board builders that stepped up. I mean, the Best in Show was mind blowing how great it was. You know, it's hard to pick a winner, which is why I have the public vote, because um, frankly, they all deserve first place. They all deserve to win $1,000 at least. I mean, the boards, the work that they put in, it's incredible. And the public loves the Best in Show exhibit, and the ability to, voice their thoughts through a vote.
It's always a highlight for sure. Like when people are coming up to me, they're often referencing Best in Show. We chat about something. They go, "Hey, did you see this board over at Best in Show?"
Yeah.
So yeah, and great to see Steve Farwell win. Steve, is he making a living off of surfboard shaping, or is he like kind of a backyard guy?
I, I sense that he might be retired.
Okay, that
I
makes sense.
think. I don't really remember. I did speak with him at length, and I should remember exact. I think he may have explained what he did. I want to say like firefighter or something like that, but I don't know. I'm probably
Well,
butchering it, but
so
I spoke with he and his wife. Yeah.
the reason I ask is I've seen him on Instagram over the years, and it started tiny. I just looked him up. He's still only has 1,611 followers, but I've noticed the quality of the work go up over the years. When I first started seeing him, he seemed like, oh, it's a backyard guy doing his thing. And over the years, I've looked and there's all this intricate woodwork, or not, maybe not woodwork, but like stringer glue ups and stuff like that. And the boards look incredible. And so I was like, man, is this guy? Yeah, I just wanted to know more about him. So to see his board in the boardroom show or see the board in real life and then see him take the win over everybody else that was there, I was like, holy cow, good to see it.
Yeah, he clearly took the instructions and sort of, I think best, or at least the public thinks he best, displayed what we were requiring.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like over the top. Like there's something about the aesthetic of his board that's just appealing, you know.
Hmm. Yeah.
And of note, Steve learned to shape. He was mentored by Mike Marshall from, well, most of us know Mike. He was a teacher in I think in Costa Mesa, somewhere in Orange County. He was a teacher for years, but he made the trestle special surfboard for Harbor. He was a head shaper, or one of the shapers besides Rich Harbor, of course. And he was known for the trestle special. And Mike did a lot of teaching, and Steve is one of the guys that he taught how to shape. And of course, our trophy is the Mike Marshall Perpetual Trophy, the Icons of Foam Trophy, for which the winners of the Shape Off have their name etched into. So that's kind of a cool connection there, Mike Marshall and Steve Farwell.
Very cool connection. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
What else do you got?
Well, I was just going to say congrats in the end. Congrats. I felt like this is the best boardroom show I've been to. And I talked to a number of people and everybody shared that sentiment too.
Yeah, I should probably take this time to thank Tim Crozier and Tracy Taylor and Gavin, who unfortunately I don't know Gavin's last name. I should, but the guys that run the shaping bays that keep the competition running and on time, they do a great job. So thank you to those three.
No, they really do. They take it like it's their own business. That's how serious they take it. So,
Yeah.
Well, in other news, just to let people know, Electric Acid Surfboard Test premieres this Thursday. If you want to keep tabs on that, Mikey February, who actually was in attendance at the Boardroom Show as well.
Yeah. I'm excited about the electric. I mean, that's going to be good, right?
Totally.
I've been so focused on my own stuff. Have there been any teasers has Stab thrown any teasers, or is all coming fresh at us on Thursday? This is something to look forward to.
They have not really given any teasers other than what you saw a month or two ago when they first announced it. But yeah, it's dropping on Thursday. So get ready for that. Set your clocks if you want to watch it in real time. And then they're doing actually a live premiere in New York. I don't know where in New York, but go to their Instagram or website and you can find that out. But look forward to East and we will discuss it next week. The other thing that I'm sure you were aware of, Scott, is Pipeline is back. Early
Yeah.
season pipe. Holy cow. I saw clips and I'm like, this clearly is from last year. Like I didn't anticipate it, didn't see it on the radar, but holy cow, it's back.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think a lot of us had that same thought, like, oh, they're just like previewing from last year to get us fired up. But no, it's been going off. And I guess John dropped in and dropped into some bombs. And Nathan Florence, I saw some stuff, and all those pipe specialists were there in their home, in their backyard, getting the first taste of an early season swell. So that's really great to see and to hear. And yeah, it's funny, like the North Shore sort of falls off our radar now that the tour, I mean, it doesn't fall off our radar, but normally this time of year, we're like going, oh, what's going on at the Sunset Pro? Like they have a whatever, but we'll see what happens here. It's going to be a fun season, regardless, contest or no contest. There'll be massive waves ridden and always good to watch.
We could easily have called John's Wave the must-see moment of the week. There was an image from 10 or 15 years ago, back in his Hurley days, where he's blown out. He's on the shoulder at pipe, and the spit is like, a cannon, and he's kind of got his head down like a claim almost coming out of the tube, spit right behind him, and it's a black and white image. Aaron Lieber, I think, shot it.
Yeah.
It's an iconic photo. He did that exact thing on this wave. This was like a replica of the 10 or 12 years ago, that wave. And I'm like, man, the kid has not missed a beat. Lots of times you see someone get married, you see someone have a kid, you see someone take a year off the tour, and then they come back and there is a bit of a learning curve or just a bit of a, I don't know, readjustment or whatever. He shows up for the first swell of the season and he is on point like he was 12 years ago when he was a Grom. So killer to see.
Yeah. Good point. It did look very similar, right? That's kind of why when you saw it, you're like, oh, this must be from a while ago because this looks very familiar, and it was just an absolute replication of what he did 10 years ago, just still doing it.
Incredible. Top, highest level, still at it. And great to see in terms of we want to see John surf at the top of his game. And this is an indicator that maybe he'll be back in 2026 on tour, taking
Yeah.
scalps.
That would be cool. I would be stoked. By the way, I'm on Levi Slawson Watch, of course,
Yeah,
and
you are.
he's dropped 2 slots to 12th place on the Challenger Series. He was in the top 10 and prepared to qualify. He's in 12th place, which isn't a bad place to be in. There are 2 Challenger events remaining. and a bunch of QSs. Do QS points, do they go towards your, you're like, dude, I don't know.
What do I know?
You used to know this stuff. You used to be the guy that knew this stuff. This
I'm
is how you
matured.
changed.
I matured. Um, yeah, keep us on Levi Watch. And it's worth noting too, coming out of that Sakurama event, um, the youngest surfer ever is qualified for a CT. And this is a female. Her name's Taya Zabrowski, 14 years old, and she's qualified. So she'll be joining the women's tour next year as a 14-year-old.
Oh my God. Remember like just last year or the year before, we're like, there's a whole new crew of young gals that are going to be taking down, Tyler Wright or whoever. Now we got a 14-year-old that's going to be taking down Katie Simmers, who's only 19.
And the turnover's quick. I
Oh
mean,
my.
when that kind of critical mass of like momentum finally swings, I think we're in that moment where who was the hot and up and coming 18-year-old 4 years ago is getting trounced by the 16-year-old. Now they're getting trounced by the 14-year-old.
Well, look, this is why having events like Chopu and Cloudbreak and Pipeline on tour for the women is so important because it gives the vets the opportunity to go, hold on here. This isn't some wave pool. And I'm not taking anything away from this young gal. I'm sure she's fabulous, but it's good to have waves of consequences and for all surfers to have to spend 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years gaining experience at some of these waves before they really sort of mature into their into the surfer that they're supposed to be.
Totally agree. There's if you go to the opposite end of the spectrum, which is wave pools. I watch some of those kids do things in the wave pool and I go, it doesn't look that hard. Like when I grew when I grew up surfing, it looked freaking hard. And consequently, it was hard because my perception was this is going to take me 20 years how to learn. And then I went out there with that expectation, and it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. I watch these kids in wave pool. I'm like, okay, you dial up a wave, you get to your feet, there's a ramp coming at you. All you got to do is time it like you would on a skateboard ramp. So I think these 8 and 10-year-olds are witnessing these things, and then they go out there and they're able to execute these things in an incredibly quick learning curve. And will that translate to the ocean? Well, it won't translate to Chopu or Pipe, but it might translate to Huntington Beach or to T Street, or it'll be a lot better translation. And that I think is what we're seeing. And so and I think this happens in other sports or other disciplines, math or the high jump or whatever, where it does hit this kind of critical mass of where everybody's interpreting the information. And then once one or two people and once 10 people do it, all of a sudden a million people can do it. And these kids that are raised watching the wave pools and with content at their fingertips, not even having to wait a month between content drops, this is their learning curve.
Yeah, it's like tipping point, right? I think it was Malcolm Gladwell. It's like, look, if we get enough people to this place, boom. There's a book I read a long time ago called The 100th Monkey, and the theory was that they got 100 monkeys onto this island, and there was all these potatoes, and one of the monkeys learned how to wash the potato and eat it, and the other monkeys eventually were taught how to do it. And when it got to the 100th monkey, all the monkeys began to do it, like it was no big deal. And so that's that tipping point idea.
100%. Yeah, obviously it's been studied before, but I think we're seeing that moment in surfing.
Yeah.
There's another kid who just dropped a YouTube at it. His name's uh, Liacoca, Rocco Rigliacoca.
Yeah.
He's 12 years old. He splits his time between Italy and Bali, and he's 12 years old, and he's an insane surfer. Like, I mean, getting shacked way more than I've ever been shacked in my whole life, doing crazy airs, doing big turns, and it's like he's 12 years old, dude. Kid
Yeah.
hasn't even gone through puberty yet.
Yeah.
So the other detail is when you're that young, your body is just
Oh yeah.
malleable. Yeah, malleable. You don't know. You don't have fear because you haven't had consequence. Your bones probably won't break yet. They'll bend. So all of these things help expedite that learning curve, but we are really seeing it. And this girl, Taya, qualifying for the CT is a real indicator.
Well, Look, we're going to see what happens here. We're on Levi Watch, and the other young surfers are. It's exciting to see, and we got electric acid coming up on Thursday on Stab. I do have a hard out at 8, David. I apologize, but
No, let
I
me
got
give you something real quick then.
yeah.
I want you to be aware of this. I'm going to play it for you. You tell me, give me the cut sign with your throat when you're ready for me to shut it off. It's only 2 minutes long,
Okay.
but I think this is worth people following. Anybody who's interested in meteorology, oceanography, any of that sort of stuff. This girl has an incredible Instagram account. Her name's Lily Ocean Page. Have you seen this?
No.
I think she's great, dude. She gives you these real basic explanations
Hmm.
of what's going on in the ocean.
Hmm.
But here's one Instagram clip titled East Coast Waves versus West Coast Waves. An oceanographer explains. I think she's a PhD oceanographer student.
The waves that hit the East Coast of the United States versus the West Coast could not be more different. Let's look at the hard rock of Earth, the crust. Now you see between the East Coast and the West Coast, huge differences. Here, the continental shelf is large, and so that's going to create a very shallow environment. On the West Coast, completely different scenario. Very steep, very, very narrow continental shelf. The difference in the slope of the seafloor on your shoreline is going to impact the size of the wave, the shape of the wave, and where that wave will break. Now let's look at the atmosphere. In order to make a wave, you need swell. And in order to make swell, you need, say it with me class, wind. A majority of the continental United States sits within the mid-latitudes, which are impacted by the westerlies. This is going to influence the direction that swell and storms are formed. So although local conditions can vary on the day, the winds can be onshore or offshore, the general pattern of the westerlies sets up large storms to come into the west coast. Larger, more developed swells will have longer periods between waves. The result of this is that the East Coast generally has smaller waves with shorter periods than the West Coast. But I will not exit this discussion on swell without mentioning hurricanes. The Atlantic is way more favorable to develop hurricanes, which can produce long periods and big waves.
All right, you get the point.
Yeah, no, she does a good job. I want her to discuss fetch, right? Fetch is sort of when you have a ton of wind, what wind does over a long period of time is create fetch. And fetch is what spins out the swells.
Start your own Instagram account. Get on there.
She knows more than me. I'm not going to.
I think she's great. Give her a follow if you want to learn.
Yeah.
And she does, again, 2 minutes. It's kind of like bite-sized, but they're informative. They're entertaining. She shows tons of footage, so it illustrates everything, charts, maps, arrows, stuff like that.
Cool.
She does one on Nazare, explaining the anomaly of Nazare. And then my must-see moment presented by Treeswax. Go to treeswax.com to get your petroleum-free surf wax and money-back guarantee if you buy it online as well. Promo code SPIT, I think, saves you 20%.
Yeah.
Go to Treeswax. I want to show you this clip. This made its rounds on the internet right before the Boardroom Show. I had a discussion about it with your son, actually. And this was the House of Foam and Froth account posted this footage of Andy Irons from Mexico from 15 years ago. And it is unreal. Like, Andy he's on a double overhead wave, and he just goes up to the lip, like to do an off the top, and flies, does an air, comes down on the floater section. He backdoors this thing from behind the rocks. Somebody in the comments section said, I was paddling over. Nobody was sitting that far back. We thought he was going to die. And he just gets so shacked, comes out, does incredible carves on these double overhead, throaty, powerful waves. Nobody is surfing like this to this day. To this day, this is still benchmark stuff.
This is amazing footage. And I mean, there's no words. You got to watch it, but the one thing that stands out most is what you said is how big the waves are. Videos you don't really realize how big the waves are unless you're out in the water. Like videos tend to make the waves look a little bit smaller. These are large waves, probably the biggest waves that can hit this region of Mexico.
And throaty, like
super
powerful.
Throaty.
And he is going straight up into the lip, like with reckless abandon and manhandling it.
He's just laughing. He's toying.
I mean,
that's what Andy Irons is known for, just toying with the most heavy situations.
If we were out there, I literally would be like scrambling for the shoulder to get out of the way of these sections, and he is
Exactly.
going straight into it. It's wild.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really gets you frothed up.
I mean, forget about your and my ability level. Even on the current tour, Ethan Ewing, Jack Robinson, Felipe Toledo are not surfing at this level.
Yeah, pretty incredible.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
So shout out to Andy. Shout out to House and Foam and Froth, and thank you, treeswax.com. We love you. And then also just a shout out to the Surfrider Foundation doing incredible work year in and year out. You'd be amazed if you knew how many surfers exist in the world, and then you saw how many members of Surfrider there are. There is such a delta between those two numbers. If you are an appreciator of the ocean, using it in any way recreationally, you got to support the Surfrider Foundation. They're taking care of it for you.
Absolutely. Join the Surfrider Foundation. Do it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, David, we said a lot. Lots been discussed. Until next time, adios and aloha.